Hey guys, OGalbina here, bringing you guys another episode of Draft League Study. Yes, it's back, I think, for the third time, but this time with a little bit different of an idea. My buddy Kurt gave me a great idea to kind of flip this, instead of talking about individual mons, at least initially, more so talking about general concepts and subjects when it comes to draft. And the best place to start, I think, is going over each of the 18 typings and going over their roles in draft, if they're needed, that kind of stuff, and kind of talking about them, notable Pokemon, things like that, what kind of role these typings really fill. And I thought it would be a really cool idea. So big shout outs to Kurt. Let me know if you guys are here for this concept, or if not, if you want to see specific Pokemon instead, definitely let me know. But I figured this would be a cool way to get kind of discussion videos on draft out each and every week and stuff like that. So yeah, if you guys do enjoy the video, be sure to drop a like, and if you're new here, be sure to consider subscribing. I would really appreciate it. Share the video with a friend, all that good stuff, YouTuber plugging. And yeah, that being said, let's go ahead and jump into it. Sorry, my cat is just meowing at my door. Today, as you can probably see, we're going to be talking about bug type Pokemon, a typing that's usually actually pretty slept on, especially by like the more casual Pokemon fan bases. They usually see the early route bugs as very weak Pokemon, which is fair. The Butterfrees and the Beedrills and stuff like that of the world aren't very strong, or very potent offensively or defensively, but I think bug is a really slept on typing competitively, especially to the newer player to draft or anything like that. And yeah, we'll kind of talk about that today. And the first thing we're going to talk about, and a big kind of really cool way of seeing this, is going to be in the average base stats. Let me go ahead and move my face cam. I haven't really decided exactly how I want to do this, so I'm going to move myself up here, and we're going to talk about the overall base stat total of bug types on average today. Oh, there we go. I say this, but then my mouse sticks. Okay, cool. So we should be good right there. We're going to look up the overall base stat total of bug types, and why I think it's very, very misleading, and not super indicative of actually how good they are. So we're going to see the average HP stat is going to be 57, 57.1, attack 71.2, defense 71.2, special attack 56.7, special defense 65.8, and speed 56.7. This is the lowest average base stat total of all the typings, and I think honestly it surprised me a little bit as a competitive Pokemon player, as a draft player, because there are a lot of great bug types, and we'll talk about a ton of them. We have two of them right here in Buzzwole, which has a really high defense stat, in Volcarona, which has a really high special attack and special defense stat, where its special attack stat for bugs are much lower than something like Volk. But I think the reason that their base stat total gets dragged down so much is because the base forms of a lot of bug types, the Larvestas, the Weedles, the Kakunas, things like that, the really, low end of the evolution chain type Pokemon, are so low in base stat total. I think it kind of overwhelms and kind of pushes the idea, or like makes the averages look like bug types are really weak, really feral, really slow, where in fact there's a lot of them that fill a lot of different roles. And I think when we go over some of them today, you'll be able to see that a little bit more. And bug is definitely a typing too, where it's like really drastic on both spectrums of how good they are. Whereas like the top of the spectrum, the Mega Scizors, the Volcaronas, the Buzzwoles, those Pokemon at the top, phenomenal, absolutely amazing. But then you have like Ninjask and Butterfree and Beedrill and things like that are really bad. So we're definitely going to kind of see that today. And again, I think that's a big show of why this base stat total, like average, is so freaking low. And yeah, so let's go ahead and jump on into, we'll talk about the typings. First we'll go over, oops, click the wrong button. I totally dragged it away. Sorry about that, gang. There we go. See, first video, we're gonna work out some kinks and the format we want to do this and stuff like that. But things that bug is super effective against, not a lot, honestly. We have Grass, Psychic, and Darp. It's definitely good to be able to punish bulky grasses in a format like this. I love a good bug type plus like a Zygarde, or something that really appreciates grasses being broken down a ton. Anything that doesn't like a fat, annoying, bulky grass, a good offensive water, or a good offensive ground or something like that, really does appreciate a good bug type alongside of it. Especially if said bulky ground or water has access to momentum in either U-turn or flip turn or anything like that. Because most bugs are going to get access to stab U-turn, which is a really, really nice, potent offensive tool that I think a lot of bugs can use really well. Even, timid bug types that, are more special attacking and things like that, they can throw off big U-turns and still chunk those things down and grab, great momentum alongside hazards and offensive pressure from other members. So I think that's really nice. Because I'm going to break down psychics and dark types. Dark types are another required typing in draft, in my personal opinion. So having something that can always break through those is great. Less likely to have Umbreon sit in front of your whole team. You're less likely to have a Reuniclus as well on that psychic typing sit in front of your whole team. Now, as for typings that it's not very effective against, there's a lot. Bug does really come up short in a couple of these, honestly. Fire, you are obviously going to be resisted by fire, kind of be bodied by fire types altogether. But I think this has kind of been shown more and more over the last couple of years in the format. Fire isn't a required typing. A lot of the time early in drafts career and days, you'd hear water, grass, fire, or fire, water, grass. I said it in a weird way, but fire, water, grass cores. I think waters and grasses are still very much so required typings, but fire isn't, in my personal opinion. A lot of teams don't have fire types. This gen is a little bit more, just because of the sense that boots exist, so fire's got a lot better defensively. But in old generations, especially with fire, it wasn't the best defensive typing with stealth rock existing, just in general. Fighting, another typing that's not typically super defensive, doesn't typically have a lot of recovery, so I'm not super worried about that. Poison is unfortunate. That is a very much so a required typing in my mind. Having a grounded poison, a lot of them are pretty bulky defensively. Flyings are around a lot. And things like Ghost, Fairy, and Steels also around. But a lot of these Pokemon you're going to have coverage for. A lot of bug types get flying coverage. A couple of them even get ground coverage. A lot of the physical bugs get ground coverage, like Earthquake and things like that, like Heracrosses and things like that. But I guess Heracross also gets fighting coverage, which is really good for Steels. As for Fairies, some of the special ones especially get a lot of poison coverage, which is really nice. And it's not that you're weak. It's not like you're weak to a lot of these things. You're out of these typings that you're weak to. At least having that you're not very good against offensively, you're only weak to fire and flying. That's it. And you only have 3 weaknesses altogether, which we can kind of jump into right here. Typings that are super effective against bugs, it's only fire, flying, and rock. Like I said, fire is a little bit more common this gen. Flying is really unfortunate to be weak to. I think flying is just a very spammable typing in general. So being weak to flying is a little bit unfortunate, especially, not hitting it super effectively. And on rock as well. Rock isn't something you will always see on a team. Not the biggest deal in the world, but they're definitely great rock types. And obviously, being a ground resist, as you'll see right there, having that ground resistance is kind of mitigated by being weak to rock, especially in a lot of the more frail bug types. You can't really use them as a ground resist if they're just going to die to the subsequent rock slide or stone edge. So it doesn't make them the greatest edge quick resist. Now, obviously, there are some bug types that are extremely defensive, have good secondary typings, things like that, like Buzzwole, 2 times resist the ground, but its fighting typing also makes it neutral to rock, and it basically resists physical rock moves, which is obviously really, really clutch. So not the biggest deal in the world. And then typings that you resist other than ground, you're going to resist fighting, which is honestly good, because like I said, you aren't very effective against fighting types, but you have great coverage for them. But again, you have to be careful, rock sides, stone edges, things like that. And then grass types are usually fodder for most bugs, so that's honestly a plus side altogether. And then finally, let's talk about some Pokemon. I feel like that's going to be a little bit more important here. First up, we'll talk about something like Scizor. Scizor is going to be an example of a really, really solid bug type. Scizor, or if we're playing Nat decks, which as you can see on the thumbnail, we have some Nat decks Pokemon, or some prior gen Pokemon, and something like Mega Scizor. Phenomenal Pokemon. Bug Steel is actually a really solid defensive typing. Really, it's only weak to fire, which is absolutely amazing. There's a couple Bug Steels in the game, being Scizor and Fortress. I don't like Fortress very much. I love Mega Scizor. Mega Scizor is a great pivot with things like U-turn. Can set up in Curse and Sword Stance. Curse Mega Scizor is incredibly difficult to break from the Spidef side. It can knock off items, it can U-turn, it can roost, it can defog and tailwind and superpower. Phenomenal Pokemon with, again, look at the base stat total. Absolutely astronomical. 150 attack, 140 defense. It's basically a ground resist. It's basically a rock resist, depending on how you're invested in things like that. Or even regular Scizor if you're playing on Wi-Fi. We have what? Base 130 attack, 100 defense, 80 speed F with 70 HP. Very, very bulky, and it takes on a lot of things defensively phenomenally. So I think this is a very good example of a little bit more of a higher base stat total bug type and a little bit of a stronger bug type offensively, especially from that physical side. Very solid, and a Pokemon that fits a ton of roles, not only offensively but defensively, which is great. Next, we'll talk about Volcarona. And this will kind of be the big point in which we'll talk about heavy duty boots, making bug types a lot better this gen. And if you don't know what heavy duty boots do, they basically make it to where you don't take hazard damage when coming in, which is great for Pokemon like Volcarona, who would have been 2 times weak to rocks due to its bug type, and then obviously 2 times due to its fire, so it's taking 50% of rocks. 50% on switching when rocks are on the field. So heavy duty boots allowing this thing to function as that quiver dance sweeper, and it's kind of a lot like Scizor. If you look at like the stat distributions, they're a little bit flipped, whereas Scizor has, very solid attack stat, very solid defense stat. Volcarona is going to have a very solid special attack stat, very solid SPDF stat. Now it has higher base stat total in general, 100 base speed, which is very solid. Again, what was the average base speed of the bug typing? Let's see, 57. So again, about double that, just with this one Pokemon, kind of showing the discrepancy between the high base stat totals and the low base stat totals, which is obviously very, very solid. Like I said, phenomenal setup sweeper. Another Pokemon that gets U-turn, another Pokemon that gets Defog, another Pokemon that gets Tailwind. Again, great utility out of a lot of these bug types. Very, very diverse move pools. Will-O-Wisp, like I said, it can recover itself in Roost a lot like Scizor. It gets off big overheats. It can set up a... It looks like... Oh, no, it doesn't get dual screens. I thought I got dual screens for some reason. It gets Psychic and Giga Drain and Hurricane and Bug Buzz and obviously Fire Dance, Flamethrower, Fire Blast type thing. Another phenomenal Pokemon on a typing that's typically not that good. And again, we're going to keep kind of rolling through these. Buzzwole, a lot like Scizor, but a little bit more on the extreme end. A lot bulkier physically. A lot stronger, honestly, initially. And actually faster. It's a little bit more frail on the SPDF side though, which is unfortunate. But again, a Pokemon that can function in a ton of different roles. And again, if we look at the base stat average, instead of, Buzzwole's base 139 defense, if you just looked at the numbers, it'd say, base 71 is about average. It's about double. Attack, about double, because they're both base 139, which is crazy. The only stats that are like around the norm for this Pokemon, for bug types, are going to be the SPDF stats and the special attack stats. They're pretty close. It's actually below average in both of those regards, especially in the SPDF. But it honestly makes up for it in a ton of different ways. Like I said, crazy move pool. Roost can set up with bulk up, power up punches, can be a Scarfer, can be a Assault Vest, a bunch of different things. You know what Buzzwole does. It's a fat physical wall, and potentially a really strong breaker as well. Scolipede is going to be like kind of that speed example. Really fast Pokemon. It also offers hazards, which a lot of bug types can definitely do as well. Things like Crustle and the aforementioned Fortress and things like that can kind of offer that aspect to a team, which is great in Spikes and T-Spikes. Speed boost plus that base 112 speed set, opposed to the average of 56. So again, about double. Allowing it to be really fast, outspeed things, form that hazards lead Endeavor Typemon, or that Swords Dance Sweeper Typemon. We have this one on the SBU right now, and I love Scolipede. Last time I drafted Scolipede before SBU, we won the championship in NCP Season 4. So I think this Pokemon's phenomenal. And again, a Pokemon that has decent bulk as well. I've used physically defensive Scully. It's definitely not a strong suit, for sure. Don't get me wrong. That's a little bit of stretch to say it's like, great defensive Pokemon, but it's not to where you never find a setup opportunity, or you'll never, live a hit from anything, which is, again, absolutely amazing. Strong, with a life orb or with a Swords Dance or anything like that. Fast, that kind of thing. Heracross, another model that we're using right now in the RODL. Pokemon with great diverse abilities in Guts and Moxie, both being absolutely phenomenal. Very naturally bulky in 80, 75, 95, which is, again, absolutely amazing. 85 is speed tier, very solid. 125 attack on top of Guts, on top of Moxie, Swords Dancing, bulking up, close combat, Earthquake, and Facade, knockoff, and all these crazy coverage moves. Also having access to things like Spikes and, stuff like that. Throat Chop. What do you call it? Facade is, again, I think I said Facade, but really great Pokemon. If we look at the base stats though, it doesn't say the same thing, and I kind of want to look. Let's go ahead and look at bug types just in general. We're looking at Dex right now. we're gonna look at base stat totals, and I kind of want to scroll down first, and we're not gonna look at blip bug and things like that, because obviously these Pokemon are pretty bad, but we can look and see there's a lot of them too. There's a lot of bug type Pokemon that are sitting at 300 base stat total or around there and below, opposed to the ones that are at, let's say, 500 and above. The difference between 500 and above to 400 and below is really, really immense. Like it's a big discrepancy compared to other ones. But again, that top end of the spectrum is great. Mega Scizor, like we said, amazing. I totally forgot to talk about Mega Heracross with Heracross. It's just Heracross, but stronger and bulkier. Man, the bulk on this thing is crazy. We're gonna look at that really quick. This is a Pokemon I actually really, really, really want to try. I would love to try Mega Heracross in draft. I've seen it do phenomenal for a lot of people. It's 185 in attack. I think that's either tied or the highest in the game as for a base attack stat, with 115, 105 bulk, with 80 base HP. A little bit slower, so strong though. Skill Link Rock Blasts and Pin Missiles and Bullet Seeds and things like that, just absolutely ripping through teams. So another great Pokemon, phenomenal Pokemon. Let's go back to Bug. Just punched my mic on accident, good lord. If I'm talking a little bit quiet, it's because it's 2 in the morning when I decided I really like this idea that Kurt gave me and I wanted to record. So yeah, that's what we're going with. But again, we have things like a Selgor, another Pokemon that just exemplifies speed. Scolipede Durant, another breaker. Galvantula gives you that sticky webs, as well as that Volt Switch option as well, so giving that cool typing in Bug plus Electric. Those flying types not switching on you as easy. Those fire types getting Volt Switch and things like that. Galvantula has a really cool offensive typing on top of the webs option. Scyther, just a fast, fast U-turn momentum pivot type on. We talked about Volcarona. We have a couple Ubers in Genesect and I think it's just Genesect or Pheromosa. And then Mega Beedrill, one I kind of skipped over. Another great, fast, strong pivot that just exemplifies power and breaking, which is great. And then we have more defensive bugs again. Things like Orbeetle definitely have their use. Very, very solid in forming that bulky, annoying pivot. It is kind of crazy to me. Oh no, I'm not looking at base stat totals anymore. Okay, I was like, why is that above it? Let's go right back here. There we go. Buzzwole, like we already talked about. Gliscod, great spiker, great priority option. So if we look through these Pokemon outside of just like early route bugs, like Pokemon down here, let's look when we stop getting past the fully evolved Pokemon. I think once we get like past around here, we have some things that start getting a little bit worse. We have Frostmoth and Vespiquen, which aren't the greatest things in the world. Frostmoth is actually a big threat if the opponent doesn't have a good steel type, as well as Vespiquen is a really solid low tier mon. But once we start getting down below Ribombee, Ninjask, not very good unless you're allowing Baton Pass. Masquerain, not very good in general, even subpar as a web setter. Venomoth is very solid, actually. I like this one a lot. But Illumise, Volbeat, nice little gimmicky options, Encore, Prank Shenanigans, and all of these Pokemon, we get down to a point where even though they are fully evolved, they really do suck. But I think a lot of these bugs here in these higher tiers are so usable and so draftable. They fit so many different diverse roles, and I do think it's 100% a very slept on typing in draft. And I would implore you guys to try different bug types and try more bugs on your teams and things like that. And again, it's not a required typing, and that's going to be something that I kind of want to reiterate though. I don't think like you're like, oh man, I'm missing my bug type for this draft. No, only draft it if you have a team that would appreciate a bug type. You would only draft a Mega Scizor if you're like, wow, I have a Zygarde and I really don't like these fat grasses. I don't break it very well. I have a team in Trick House right now that has Mega Scizor, Zygarde, because I think they play really well together. But I also have teams where I just don't have a bug type because it's not a needed typing, but it is very valuable on some teams depending on what you have and depending on what you need done. There's a ton of different bug types that can fit a ton of different roles, get you good secondary resistances to things like ground and stuff like that, and overall just great Pokemon. I don't really have much else to say other than don't just look at the numbers, kind of look into the Pokemon's move pool, into their abilities, look into all of their stats, not just the stats of the average stats overall that we saw, which were pretty subpar and lackluster, and kind of formulate that opinion yourself on a lot of these mods. I think Bug was a cool one to start off this series, and a typing that some people might think it's one of the absolute worst typings, but in Draft League at the very least, not really the case, especially being able to see what your opponent has, so you can kind of pick that coverage or you know, kind of plan accordingly. So great overall typing. I really do like Bug as typing. I think it's very slept on. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you did enjoy. Let me know what you guys thought, what you guys would like me to change up format wise of this. I'm thinking about just going in these in order, like doing dark I think would be next, which is a very important typing in draft, and we can talk a little bit more about that. Maybe if you guys want to see like replays showcasing really good you know, dark types, or I guess bug types for this one, but like dark types, and then, you know, whatever's next, fire, something like that. Definitely let me know that as well, so we can see some of these Pokemon in action, or any suggestions you have for me, or just talk to me about your favorite bug type in the comments. Let me know what your favorite bug type in the comments to draft is. If you've made it this far, that'd be a good way to see, you know, who's really sat through this whole 20-minute video. Tell me what your favorite bug to use in the format is. Me personally, it's gonna be Scolipede. If not that, it's gonna be Mega Scizor. Two favorites by far. I think it's without contest. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Later.